Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dalra, and in this video I kind of just want to have an unedited, just a unscripted discussion on a new Blizzard philosophy that they're trying to do in BFA. The philosophy that we've had for previous few expansions has been bring the player, not the class. A very casual, friendly philosophy, but it also is a philosophy where we saw a lot of the player downturn. Now, on the flip side, we have the vanilla, BC, and Wrath of the Lich King, more or less. The philosophy that World of Warcraft started with was bring the class, not the player. And that's something that everybody is super excited about, especially those that played back in vanilla. With WoW Classic coming by very soon, I want to see for myself the whole idea of bring the class, not the player, where the class importance was a lot higher back in the day. Now, I didn't play back in vanilla, but literally if you go to any video online, any forum post, there's so many people talking about it with such passion, with such gratitude for the game, with such nostalgia for what vanilla World of Warcraft was like. And I don't mean any of those things in a bad way. The nostalgia is, I mean, it has to be solid because everybody talks about it so great. The idea behind a class, what is a mage back in vanilla? What is a mage? What importance did they have back in vanilla compared to what they have now? When you take a look at Legion, right now a mage is just any round-of-the-mill cloth caster. There's a lot of those cloth casters, and more or less all of them are viable as a DPS, whichever one you bring to the raid. But back in vanilla, you were one of a kind. A lot of the classes were one of a kind. Mage was the DPS, ranged intellect caster class. You were the power cannon. You were the glass cannon with a ton of slows and a ton of mobility, ice block, a ton of mana. You were the power cannon. Classes like Shadow Priests, Elemental Shamans, and all them just couldn't quite compete. They simply didn't do the same amount of damage. Back in the day, class, but a lot of our classes had their own uniqueness about them too. It wasn't just, hey, you just want to bring a DPS to answer a problem. The idea was every class was special and they could answer some specific problem that you would run into, whether you're doing raids, whether you're doing dungeons. Classes were very much different and distinctive. What they brought to the table wasn't similar at all. Right now, if you take a look at the Warlock and a Mage on flip surface, they're both casters at range. So then it comes down to question who can do more damage, who can have the easiest damage, and what else do they bring. Mage brings Time Warp, Warlock brings Soul Stones, and that's really about as far as it goes to differentiate them. Back in vanilla, class differences were a lot bigger, and class importance therefore also was a lot more prevalent. Classes really did matter. What class you were really did matter. In Legion, in WoD, and MoP, and really even Cataclysm, a lot of those ideas just started to kind of fall by the wayside. Now, what I've been trying to figure out for quite a while as I'm recording this video is the positives and the negatives of the bring the class not the player philosophy compared to bring the player not the class philosophy. Because I feel like there's pros and cons to both of them. But with the current bring the class not the player philosophy, some players that are not the best at the game, not the top of the top, the cream of the crop, best in slot, all the best in slot legendaries that know the class like the back of their hand, you know, they wake up in the morning and they breathe Outlaw Rogue or breathe Subtlety or bring Affliction Warlock, whatever the class they play. If you're not the best at that class, sometimes you simply might be barred from content. For example, you're trying to get some Mythic Plus done, you might be discriminated on your raid or IO score because you don't really do enough Mythic Pluses or enough of higher end keys, but you still want to participate and do those Mythic Plus keys, but you just don't really know where to start. A lot of people would take a look at your score or your item level or what specialization you play and simply say nope because of your spec. With this introduction to bring the class not the player, it would actually help alleviate a little bit of what the player brings. Just because they play a certain class, it might make the group more inclined to bring that class. Let's say you're talking about rogues, and rogues bring a debuff, which is going to be one of the more invaluable debuffs in raids and dungeons. 5% increased damage to whatever target they attack. As soon as you attack an enemy, they get a debuff and they take 5% more physical damage. Rogues are going to be invaluable in a raid. It doesn't matter whether you're the best rogue, the worst rogue, because no matter what spec you play, no matter how good you are as a player, whether you're just trying to build your gear or you're literally at the top of your game, no matter what, your team will at least need a rogue. So it should open up a lot more opportunities for the player to at least be competitive because of the class that they are. And that's kind of what the feeling that a lot of people, when they talk about classic WoW, discuss. The fact that because you're this class, you bring something to the table. Because you are a rogue, because you're a mage, your dungeon group is able to tackle challenging content because of the class that you decide to pick. You playing that class is important to your group, it's important to your raid group, it's important to your random dungeon group, and it helps that said group no matter what. And it helps, again, alleviate, again, the capabilities of what you can do as a player. If you're somebody who can grind out those mythic pluses and get the right gear, or if you're just simply lucky to get the Titan Forges of gear, compared to the guy that simply isn't lucky, then that guy that isn't lucky might have the opportunity to see some of this content. I do think that this kind of does force a different issue to appear, and is the issue of inter-class competition. Because in the past, let's say you're doing some raids for Legion right now, and let's say you have 5 rogues in a raid group for whatever reason, or 5 rogues in a guild and they all want to come. There's really no reason for you to not bring those rogues, especially if they do go damage. Rogues are fairly self-sufficient, they don't really take too much damage from other sources, they have Cloak of Shadows, Feint is a powerful utility. But in BFA, it might be less of a story that you can kind of stack a lot of these classes, so you might be forced to play the class diversity. Even though, let's say, rogues are really good, unless they're a top DPS spot, and let's say they aren't, bringing more than one could be a liability for a team. So they might just say, hey, we just need one rogue, so let's just bring the rogue that does the best at the game, and then it kind of goes back to, oh, as a player, if you're not the best at your class, then there's not as much you can do. I feel like this kind of system opens some doors, but in a way closes others, and I guess you're trying to figure out an outway, is this a positive or a negative, how is this going to impact the community? Because I feel that from my perspective, as somebody who is currently engaged in all aspects of PvE for Legion, I'm somebody who's trying to push keys on Mythic. As an Outlaw Rogue, I've been discriminated plenty against, so to have something that a class brings, I think would be wonderful and invaluable to whatever team, whatever group I'm running with, even if we decide to double rogue it. But double roguing now might be less of an option in BFA, and I might want to look for a more diverse group. That means I might not be able to play with my buddy Sav just as often if we are trying to push some real keys. So then me and Sav will have to kind of fight between groups, and the groups will get to decide which rogue they like better. And I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come to that, or at least it doesn't become so severe that people are just like, well, there's a better rogue in the guild, so I have nothing to do. My hands are up in the air, nobody wants me because there's only one spot for number 1. Or something along those lines. So I guess there's issues that can come out of this, but there's also a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities. What I'd rather look at are the possibilities, what could be, rather than, oh, was the worst possible outcome, because I feel like that's probably the better way of looking at it. The reason I want to say that's the best way of looking at it is because we don't really know how this feature is going to function yet. Not everybody's in the alpha, the game isn't out yet, we don't really know how far Blizzard will take this approach, and all we can see is just some of the blue posts of how they want to kind of go along with the classes, some of the specific class changes they've done, just to see how it works out. I think for in a long term, what I'm guessing out of this, Blizzard is trying to make it more towards the class is important in order to help a little bit of that personal player role, personal player responsibility be alleviated, and really kind of be on the shoulders of what class you are. That will increase the importance of your class, and even if you're not the best player at your class, at least you're that class, so it might open doors for more people. It will be one of those issues where it opens some doors, closes others, but in the net, it should be still net positive, that the amount of doors it closes compared to the amount of doors it closes should still be in the positive. It should still be helpful to the player and helpful overall for the community, helpful overall for, I guess, the World of Warcraft environment and ecosystem when it comes to group content, especially in PvE. And I feel like that also might allow players in PvP to kind of go back to not class stacking, to get as much diversity in their classes, to get as many different people in a group to play together. I'm kind of hoping that it's still going to be the best of both worlds, where you still can double group some players as long as they're really good, but let's say you have a player that's not that great, it might open up opportunities for them in order to be able to actually play a class and actually participate in content and be kind of carried on the idea that they're a certain class. I'm hoping that it'll be one of the situations where it's the best of both worlds, but it's just hard to tell in the future. Overall, I want to stay positive about it, and overall, that's kind of the message that I want to promote. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts on it. I think I said as much as I could about this and try to be as comprehensive as possible. It is kind of a, I feel like it's it's difficult to talk about stuff like this because this is a theory. It's a theory that Blizzard is trying to come across, and I'm not a theorist, so I'm just trying to give you guys my look at it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below. As always, guys, like the video if you enjoyed it. Go ahead, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And if you want to catch the streams, which today we should be doing a 5v5 1v1 USA EU live stream. 5v5 1v1 duels on EU today. If you guys want to participate, please go ahead and hit the notification bell down below. Thank you guys for your amazing support. It has been great so far. I don't really get to thank you guys enough, so hopefully that was at least a thank you. And yeah, let me know your comments in below. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on the theory, on the idea, and if you want to correct me on any part. Maybe I got some part wrong. Maybe I got some part about vanilla or current Legion ecosystem wrong. Let me know. I want to have my eyes open to it all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.